The Star.
Yeah, y'all already know. Seven the pan. That dude Biz on the beat. Yeah. We live in entertainment. Sound change. Crown the kings, homie. This is where it get ill. About to have the tip off live as a tip drill. From the court to the diamond, to the track, to the big skin flying round the field. Starting five forever, keeping it real. If it matters in the world of sports, jeans and long sleeves, they taking no shorts. Hot the depot, yes, these are the sports podcasts live as a pros corpse. Biz market wave, the starting five goes off. No matter who you cheer for, emotions out the window, they analyzing with clear thoughts. They take it way deeper than the boys ever. No longer got any use for the four letters. The latest news, score stats and the view from the sideline. Ain't no guideline, it's just the truth. Yeah, no need to dig for a pardon line. It's always in season. The people starting five. We going in on three. Run the baseline, starting five. Get it. We got what you need. If the sports news you see, we don't waste time. We talking cause we live it. We got what you need. We going in on three. Run the baseline, starting five. Get it. We got what you need. And y'all know me, seven sign. I'm the illest cat stick. I got what you need.
We back and we lost the person, but he'll be back. What up, everybody? It's your boy, the man, that DJ named Ace5. Your mom's favorite fat guy, all the way from deepest, darkest Africa. And we back with the newest episode of the Starting Five. As always, hit that QR code in that corner next to TJ's head to get to everything Star 5 podcast related. With that being said, the man who's next to the QR code who's reaching for something.
I was just cleaning out. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing? Fresh back off of vacation. Feeling great. Feeling lovely. Life is good. The weather is beautiful out here. Couldn't ask for nothing more.
What's up, everybody? What's up, brother TJ? Good to see you back, man. I saw you living your best life out there. What I saw you, man. You
Definitely trying to do it, brother.
Just cold chilling. You had the guns out. I saw you, bro. I saw you, man. You know what I mean?
Gotta flex a little bit, man. I'm getting old. This is all I got left.
Pleasure to have you back. What's up, Mayor? You know, another beautiful Sunday here. Looking forward to chopping up today's topic with y'all.
Word.
Yes, sir. And to be honest with y'all are the ones who got the topics. I'm gonna bring y'all something from TikTok very randomly in a few minutes. But Jamal, where are we kicking this off at?
I say we should start it off. Let's start off with the NBA Finals. Because we had a great show last week and we didn't get to touch on those conference finals, but we didn't get to do our predictions. But after game one, looks like if people weren't believing before, they need to know now them Celtics look for real. Them Celtics is something else, man. So I'm happily still picking the Celtics to win the finals. The only time I picked against the Celtics so far was in the first round against Brooklyn, and who saw that choke coming? So, but Celtics went into Golden State, handled their business. That fourth quarter was monstrous, man. That fourth quarter was monstrous, and with Golden State, with all that experience, with all those veterans and all those combined minutes of playoff and finals experience, you can never count them out. But there's something special going on with Ime Udoka and whatever he's telling this crew compared to the golden coach they had last year, because he's getting the mileage he's getting out of this squad is absolutely ridiculous.
It's all Nia Long, bro. It's all Nia Long.
I'm not in a position to deny that. That could be it. You know what I mean? But shout out to him, bro, because he got these brothers playing in a way that he's finding a way to motivate them. And Jason Tatum, and here's a scary thing, is Tatum didn't even have a great game. That's
Right.
probably the worst game he's going to play in this series. And for them to do what they did is just, they look scary. They look absolutely scary. And brother
You're
TJ,
right.
I'm gonna pass that over to you since we didn't hear
Yeah.
from you last week.
Well, you know me. It's fuck Boston all day, every day, twice on Sundays. Um, I got no love for them, even though my daughter went to school out there. Still, I can't root for them. Can't pull for. I mean, it'd be nice for another black coat to get another chip. You know what I'm saying? That would be dope. But it's just Boston, man. I can't. I think Golden State. They slept on Boston. They thought they were getting a regular season team, Boston here. So it looked like they fell asleep at the wheel in that fourth quarter, and they took them a little bit too lightly. I don't expect that same collapse happening again. They're too good of a team for that to happen.
Hmm.
But what Adoka did have them doing is making Draymond Green beat them, and Jordan Poole and others outside of Curry
Hmm.
and your boy Clay. So it will be an interesting series. It would not surprise me if it goes seven, just due to the way the nature have, like you said, of Boston's playing.
Hmm.
Adoka's got is actually pushing all the right buttons at the right times right now,
Hmm.
and they got a pretty much a full healthy squad there. So they got a lot of height, which is going to help them a lot. So Boston's not going to lay down. They're not going to lay down. They've been a scrappy team all year ever since the Christmas break. They've been out there week after week proving that they're the number one team in the league. So it's going to be dangerous, but I'll say Golden State in six.
That's a good
I'm
look.
still
That's a.
riding Golden State in 7.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just experience mainly because of the core three who's actually been there before, and the young boys have been looking great all playoffs. Jordan Poole's made a name for himself. Andrew Wiggins has had his moments here and there. This is his time to step up severely and seriously and
Well,
try to help prevent the team from not blowing 12-point leads again and losing a quarter 40-12 again. Like,
Hmm.
but I
Wiggins was the only one that was scoring. He had like 20 points.
yeah, but again, just overall, the whole combined package, the Warriors, man, they need to not. They need to just take that as their wake up. Like, I will give you this one,
Hmm.
and then wake the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's fine that that wasn't that Wiggins was the one who was the consistent one in that game. But everybody else got to get back to some level of consistency.
Word.
Right. And I fully expect that from them. Golden State is a team of killers. They've been there before, and this playoffs has been fun for them. And they now realize though this game one said, okay, they ran into a battle hardened team that's been fighting the whole playoffs. Where Golden State, they was running everybody off the court. They was having fun. And now
Yeah.
now, now they know they in a knife fight. And so I fully expect them to come out, playing some serious ball and to take game two. But I'm picking the Celtics in 7.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Hey,
All
you were
right.
the only one who got it right the last time, so I ain't mad at you.
It's the defense, man. When they clamp down, bro. And but
For
you
real.
know, but if Golden State wins this, is it going to surprise anybody with that core three plus the new kids? They've seen this before, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Both teams have solid benches. I mean, they're they're both well coached. They're very disciplined with their actions and their sets and their movements and stuff like that. So I mean, you can only keep Steph Curry shooting crazy like that for so long before he comes
mhm.
out and just starts hitting from the parking lot like he and just heats up. So that's and him and Clay. Once you get one of them, the other one's going to get started too. So it's very contagious once they start getting the ball
Yeah,
rolling.
yeah, man. But just giving the Celtics defense credit because Curry came out doing Curry things. You know, he was out there shooting the lights out, hitting threes from across the street. It wasn't looking good. I remember in the third quarter, I turned the game off. I was like, okay, they're running away with this. I think they were down by 18 in the third quarter. I
Yeah,
was like, all right, let me just get some sleep. And The next morning, I woke up and I saw these Jokers won. I was like, what? You know, um, but Steph had that big first quarter, and then they put the clamps on. I think what he had 15 for the rest of the game or 13,
Yeah,
something like that. So if they can continue to do that, I think it's gonna be a hard series for Golden State. But I don't know anybody who can do that. I haven't seen anybody do that to Steph for an entire series.
yeah. To be that consistent is
Yeah.
going to be
Mm-mm.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
you give
That's
him 1 or 2 games of that, but
hmm
like he's unless Steph is losing his step, or you know what I'm saying, or the shot is starting to fade a little bit. I don't
hmm
see that happening no time soon.
Mm-mm.
But like, yeah, and then you still got Klay Thompson, who's just as good a pure shooter as anybody in the league. Like,
That's right.
and he could drive to the basket. He's a little bit slow because I think he's still coming back from that injury, so
He's still yeah.
you're not getting a
That's it.
full version of Klay Thompson yet. But I mean, and Draymond is going to be Draymond. Draymond's going to do Draymond things. You know what I'm saying? At least he's cutting
hmm
the dirty play out the finals so
Yeah.
far. You know what I'm saying? So
hmm
it's an interesting series, like you said. Um, it could go either way. I mean, nobody's not, it's not a wrong pick to go either way at this point. Like the
Yeah.
Celtics
Yes,
have
sir.
proved to you that they belong there for sure.
hmm
So
Yeah,
yeah,
they've been
it
on an
should be interesting.
incredible ride, but like I said, I fully expect Golden State. I can't see Clay and Steph both having quiet games again at the same
Right,
time.
right,
Um, Golden State's too deep, too experienced, too well versed, and they got pride they're gonna hang on to.
absolutely.
Draymond's gonna put together a couple of good Draymond games, and the,
Triple
the
double
best,
here or there.
yeah, the best bet for the Celtics will be try to finish this team up early. If they can get them down 2-0, now Draymond gonna start making dirty plays and dumb plays. You got
Right, right. You got to step on their neck, man. But
mhm,
saying it and doing it is 2 different things, brother.
easier said than done. That's it. Completely easier said than done. You know. So, but yeah, man, it was interesting. I mean, come off the finals. If we circle back a little bit, which that Western Conference final, or we should say the Western Conference 5 practices they ran, uh, you know, was was a joke. I know the media was ready though. They was ready to start. They can't wait to crown Luca. They can't wait to crown him. And after what happened with Phoenix, and that disastrous collapse, and that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down right now. What the hell happened to the Suns? But um, they ran. They could have swept Dallas. They could have absolutely swept them. If but they took their time, but Dallas was completely overmatched by the squad, and
They had no
it seems like
answers.
they haven't. And Dallas' strategy is okay, whatever Luca does, but they have no offensive identity. It doesn't feel like so.
You're
They were lucky
saying
to make it as far as they went.
you're saying Dallas has no offensive identity. You think?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I guess they look like they're still trying to put it together.
hmm
They're still young. It's like it's I guess to say that, kind of looking at it from the standpoint of, you know how people love to, who's the number one, who's the number two, I think that's where you're trying to point to, correct?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was the yeah.
it doesn't seem that it really doesn't optically seem that they have that right now, other than they just look at Luca as the number one everything. Like they look at,
hmm
okay, he's the guy who made a name for himself. He is the household name, but who's next? That's
Yeah.
kind of the way it's positioned. It's like he's the household name, who's next? And you need more than just household name. Like you said, you need somebody who can come up and be consistent in dropping buckets, consistent with either rebounding or passing besides Luca. Or you need consistency that builds on more than just that guy, just Luca. And I'm not calling Luca that guy, but that one name person that
hmm
everybody can hang their hat on. That's what it is, because we know he can do everything. We know he can do everything, but you can't put all the responsibility on one person's head.
Yeah,
No, they don't.
it's
They don't have the pieces.
no, They're trying to build around him. They thought KP was going to be the guy, and that would have been a dynamic duo, but that didn't work out. Tim Hardaway Jr. is really not a number two. He's more like a number three scorer on a
Hmm.
team like that. Jalen Brunson had a little coming out party though, but he's not enough. You know what I'm saying? They need a solid bench. They need to work on their bench, and they need more perimeter shooting because outside of Luca, really nobody's hitting threes like that. They
Yeah,
need some real perimeter shooting. Maxi Kleber, I think their big man is all right, but it's not enough right now. They got some pieces, but they need to put together something to make a bigger trade for somebody else.
right. Like I like Tim Hardaway Jr. since he came out, man. Like I thought he should have. I mean, I looked at him like he should have been a Knick when he first came into the league, and maybe should have spent more time. Yes, he's not a number one option, but he could be a guy who should have kind of realized where he's at in the league and tried to patent himself more as of like a Jamal Crawford kind of guy.
Hmm.
Somebody who can come off the bench and get you buckets instantly.
Right.
If he could transform his game like that, then Dallas got something. But I think the way Dallas is set up right now, it's going to be either he would have to start in some games or come off the bench. But him coming off the bench, consistency. You just got to be consistent on the floor.
Indeed. Indeed.
The thing that sticks under my claw the most, again, you can never get too far away from tragedy when you're a Knicks fan. Is the Knicks just been washing Dallas up the last few years?
Yo,
And look how far
every
Dallas
time.
got.
Every time. They blew them out by 30 at the Garden the last time they played.
And
30.
I'm okay with that. When we keep kicking their ass like that, I am okay with that.
Since that KP trade, if they beat us more than once, I think
Yeah,
that's a lot. I don't
yeah,
think yeah.
yeah.
I'm saying we became the unicorn to them
Yeah.
and the
Well,
Latvian unicorn.
the wild shit is they're like the Knicks West because after we get
Yeah.
rid of our players, they go to Dallas.
Hmm.
Like the last five guys went to Dallas,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right.
including
Frank's
most
over there,
recently
right?
Reggie
Yeah.
Frank's there, Reggie Bullock's there, Hardaway Jr.'s there, KP was there. I forgot the other kid's name that's there. He reminded me of Iverson, the little guard.
Oh yeah,
Shit.
yeah, yeah.
The guy
Oh,
from Michigan.
yeah,
He's over there still.
yeah.
I can't. Yeah, they got five or six, more like six guys over there that was on the Knicks.
Who was it that we got from? It was Dennis Smith Jr. Right?
Yes, and a number
Yeah.
one
See,
draft pick.
that was the cat that he came out Porzingis' year, right?
No,
Came
he
out
came
Frank's
out
year.
Frank's
Frank's year.
year,
Right.
Yeah.
No,
and
Keenan's year. We should have had him then, in my opinion.
Yes,
But that
yes,
that also might have ruined his career even more in that era of Knicks. That might have hurt him.
Hmm.
But I wanted him more than Ntilikina.
Oh my
Who
God, I
That was a
wanted
Phil
that kid
Jackson
when
move. Yeah, there's like
yeah.
five other people in that draft I wanted besides him. That was Phil Jackson who wanted uh Ntilikina for the triangle.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that was
Damn
his call.
triangle.
It's stupid
Yeah.
ass triangle. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Ntilikina became a little like nothing to write home about, but he came along a little bit. Like he had his moments here and there, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. It proved to be a terrible draft pick at the time. Phil Jackson became to be a terrible decision at the time. Like he kind of displayed that no one man should have all that power.
Hmm.
Yes.
While halfway doing his job, by the way, like because
Yeah.
it just felt like he was never there, never around. Once in the blue, you've seen him courtside, well, a few feet off of the floor, taking in the game and checking out what's going on. But he just never seemed invested. He never seemed invested ever since he left the Knicks back in the 70s. Which is crazy to say. He was a part of our only championships, right? One
I
of them,
think
I
Yeah.
one
think,
of one
right?
of the squads. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
squads. But I mean, Was he integral though? I don't. That's just before my time, so
I don't.
I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
he was
I
integral.
don't think so. We
Yeah,
needed JP here for that.
yeah. I think he may have been the Rambus of his era, and that may even be giving him too much credit. But yeah, he was there. Good for him.
Hey,
You
they
know.
said Phil was a. They said Phil was a decent baller. We just have to, we got to hit the YouTubes to
Yeah.
check to see if anybody was daring enough to find Nick's tape and put it up. We'd have to check for it, man.
hmm
But
But
funny enough, we're talking basketball. I actually got challenged this week. Was it this week or it might have been? No, it might have been this week, in the beginning of the week or last week. I don't remember. I had made a post where somebody asked on TikTok about what's something controversial that people would jump on you for, and I threw up my Jordan ain't the GOAT argument. I threw up my Jordan ain't the GOAT argument. Now that's not the TikTok question of the week. I just wanted to see where y'all were at with this because we're still talking basketball. And this one brother really questioned me, like on some like, yo, it's clear. He said it's clear that you don't know basketball like that. And I was like, oh yeah. And he was like, yo, come on. No, he said, come on my IG live and let's talk about this because it's clear that you don't know basketball like that. I
mm,
looked at his account. He has 16,000 followers. I broke 1,000 for us on the Star 5 podcast page. So I said, shit, we could go live right here because once you hit over 1,000 followers, you have the ability to go live on TikTok. So he went live, and I didn't know if it was for me or not, but I checked in, and then he said, "Oh, he just came in," and so I tapped in to join in,
hmm
and that brother quickly changed his mind after the fact, understanding that I did know my shit.
mm,
So shout outs to Hoop Lord, no shots. It's just the brother learned that day that my ass did know basketball, but it was dope to find another brother who he's actually living out in LA. He's from Philly. He's just a year or two younger than me. So we were all of the same era. And even he said I wasn't a Jordan guy like that either until I did some retrospective thinking and looking back, and I get why, he's like, I get it. But what I'm throwing to y'all is I think we've had this discussion before. I know we've had it in the groups before because many of people actually felt this way after a while. This whole debate of, and it seems to only truly, it only truly happens in basketball because when you look at today's game and how positionless it is, almost like, oh, there's another question. Thinking positionless, there's another question, and I'm gonna ask after this, but it's almost positionless. Um, but the game has always evolved and changed, at least decade by decade. Whether you
hmm
take it from the round numbers from 70 to 80, 80 to 90, 90 to the 2000s, the 2000s to the 10s to now. The game has always changed. Yet there are always at least that one to two players that transcend any era.
hmm
Like LeBron James, for instance. Everybody loves to shit on LeBron James, think and assume that LeBron James couldn't hang in the 80s or 90s. But if you take a player of LeBron James with LeBron James caliber of talent now and have him trained under a rough ass 80s and 90s basketball,
That part.
he would be able to survive and probably still be as great as he is. So the question is, we have our personal top fives. We do this in hip hop all the time and in rap music all the time. But in basketball, this GOAT conversation is generally always flawed. And shouldn't we look at it by eras and or decades over one universal player overall?
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
Unless somebody got a hot tub time machine and you can have these things go, there's no other way to do it but that. The conversation is always going to be flawed. You can only judge them by their performance in their era, and that's just it.
Against the people they played against. That's
Yeah.
it.
hmm
Exactly. And that's my thing behind the whole argument because it's like people love to bring up Jordan and rings, and again, not calling the homie out because that's what he tried to do at one point. And with the 6 for 6, what I love to call 666, as everybody knows, 6 playoff, 6 finals, 6 finals MVPs, no series going past 6. When I read that on the Jordan statue, I was like, okay, I might have to give it up. Then you look at the accolades. Okay, I got to give up my stance on the Jordan hate train. As I said in a video I made, he is the god of the 90s. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Once he
Hmm.
finally broke through in 91, there was no stopping him until he stopped himself because he was mentally burnt out and went to play baseball, then came back. And then there was
And
no
won three
stopping,
more.
and then there was no stopping him for the 3 more. And then the Wizards happened. Yes, people, the Washington Wizards happened. We
Yep.
can't leave that out. But also, and the reason part of the reason why the argument was always flawed is because everybody erases his first 7 years in the league when he was getting
Yeah.
his ass kicked by Detroit, when they were getting beat up by everybody.
Boston.
You know why they
Yeah.
forget? You know why they forget? They were too little. They was in grade school, so that by the time they get to junior high, Jordan is like his seventh or eighth year. So
And that
that's what they remember. That's
and
all they remember.
and that was my point there, TJ. Nostalgia, it, nostalgia flaws people's arguments, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because I said, you know what? Matter of fact, while we talk about that, because I had a different video that I pulled up because for later for a TikTok question of the week. That's something I want to add in, man. Because like I said, I'm having too much fun. And even somebody asked me, "Yo, why don't you implement some of this on your podcast?" And I was like, you know what? I thought about that, but yeah, you know what? I got to do that. So I got to start implementing some of this shit on the podcast. But I want to find. Let me find this video wherever the fuck it is, because it should have been easy to find.
You
Because
know why Jordan is considered the GOAT at that time? Because he was doing shit against all those trees. He was going against the Elijahwans, the Ewings, the Mornings, and people that were beating your ass when you drove to the paint. So that was some miracle shit he was doing, at that time. It's nothing like you never seen before. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I get it. I get it. I hated him when he played. I respect him in retirement, but I couldn't stand when he was playing
All right.
at all.
So hear me out. Let me know if y'all can hear this.
Yeah, no sound.
Okay, so I gotta fix that. But all right, so we'll share it. I'll share it a different way. I'll share this a different way. I'll get it from the website. Oh
Don't
no, I
worry,
got
Dan.
it.
You're doing a way better job than ESPN's coverage of the fight last
Oh Christ, man,
night.
bro. That shit. That shit just.
It
In
was
the
that
middle of the
bad.
Oh,
round, Jamal.
they was
In the
cutting
middle of
the
the round.
commercial in the middle of a round. They was cutting the commercial as we don't even hear the final the bell ring when the round was over. They were cut to
No,
commercial. There was
you
no
hear the
in
10
between.
seconds and then they go
Yeah,
to commercial.
Fouls. There was no in between round commentary. They were going to the corners to hear what the trainers were saying to the fighters. I was like, oh, they should never get a big fight again.
And
But
I
I get it.
wish Timothy Bradley would shut up. He would just talk too much.
But
All
he
right,
loves his job, man.
here we go.
He does.
What's something you'll get a lot of hate for if you say it out loud?
Michael Jordan is not the GOAT. It was because he was the best thing ever during your formative years. Go over the whole history of the game, please. Plain and simple.
Hmm.
It's because the most people that we hear from now is people of our era who was around to have seen and paid attention to all of Jordan's championships.
Hmm.
And so that's why I say, because you could go back before him. People of the 80s will tell you they thought Dr.
That-
J was the GOAT,
right.
Imagine.
and yeah, and or Magic or Bird. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many flawed arguments, especially when rings. People love to talk and bring up rings in the conversation. And rings is the most flawed conversation ever because, like, I broke it to homie and I said, yo, just think of football, for instance. Are you going to tell me Jeff Hostetler is is better than Dan Marino? Or are you going to tell me the court homie who was the quarterback, Trent Dilfer, is better
Oh, for
than
the
Dan
Tampa Bay.
Marino? No,
Yeah.
People
Trent
forget
Dilfer.
that from Baltimore. From
Trent Dilfer
Baltimore.
won Baltimore.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell
Oh,
me Trent Dilfer is better than Dan Marino because he got a ring? You know?
Brad Johnson got a ring, man. I mean,
Yeah, Brad
there's a lot of
Johnson
folks
was
out
yeah,
there
that's who I was thinking
that
of.
got rings. So, rings are they part of the conversation? Yeah, but they don't carry as much weight as folks would like you to
Listen,
believe because
Ed,
if they
Eddie
you
Curry
can't,
has a ring.
that's it. You see what I mean? And you could bring up
Eddie
Jordan's 6 rings, but a lot of folks in that
Ori,
generation don't look at the ring counts for guys before Jordan.
no, and Ori got what 6 rings his damn self. Is he
Is
better
it
than
6 or
Michael
7?
Jordan?
seven.
Yeah,
7.
he got
Robert Ory
7.
got
Oh,
seven.
Robert Ori got more than Jordan. Does that make him the best all around player in the NBA?
Yeah,
No, he just got a great ass manager who
agent.
put him in the right
Yeah,
situation every time.
his agent is the goat. Really.
Somebody call his agent. Shit, he got the right. He knew what the hell he was doing.
Yeah. So it's
And
it's the flaw. It's a flawed beyond flawed argument to ever say that. I mean, hey, if that's what you feel, that Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time. Yes, there are even legends that said this is the greatest of all time that they've ever witnessed. Larry Bird said that was God on the court and all of that stuff. But was he God in the 80s when he got stopped each and every time, whenever, if the Bulls even made the playoffs? Nope.
no,
Nope.
the Pistons was, yeah, and I don't blame a lot of folks for especially who came up in that era for thinking that, because we also have to remember Jordan was marketed in a way that an athlete had never been marketed at that time.
That
Between
point too. Yep.
the ridiculous sponsorships you got, Haynes, Gatorade, McDonald's, he was everywhere, and that stuff sticks with you.
Yep, and that was one of the major points that I had made too, is that the NBA at that time was just off of Magic and Bird,
Hmm.
just off of Magic and Bird, off a marketing sense, and Michael Jordan was the next up, and they put the entire machine behind him.
That was
They
all
even
Nike though. Yeah,
it was Nike, the league, everybody put everything behind him, regardless of if he was winning it all or not.
right.
Regardless of if he was winning it all or not, he was looked at as that next greatest thing. You know
Well,
what I'm
that
saying? And that's
plus
what took the NBA. He took the NBA over the top. So that's where I get another place where I get people will say that he is the greatest ever is because he put the league in position to where it is today. He
Hmm.
put the league in position to where these athletes can get. Well, he was one of the ones who gave them the powers to get the money that they're getting now. But that was more not within the league, but outside of the league.
don't
We got to
forget the Olympics helped all of that. When the Dream Team came and
that
played
too.
overseas, they couldn't get off the bus because they wanted to see Michael Jordan. Like it was bananas the overseas. That boosted the
So
game so much after that.
Hmm.
All them kids
so
that saw or watched him on TV play in all these countries over there, they were like, "Shit, I want be like Mike." Was a real thing after that.
the
At
whole
that
world
point,
wanted to be like Mike after that.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's people have to put into perspective all of those little intangibles. The
Hmm.
machine, yes, he was great, but his level of dominance was in that 10-year block of time. That 10-year block of time is where he reigned supreme. And it was undeniable who that man was.
Hmm.
You know what? You can. He was so dope that he took a year and a half, almost 2 years off, came back and ran it back again.
That he
Yeah.
did.
That shit don't happen.
Yeah.
That shit don't
He's,
happen.
yeah, he's the goat of his era.
He
Right.
was
He
like,
did his he,
yeah,
he did his
he
thing.
took a sabbatical and came back and ran it back.
What that was the thing. It was of his era,
Hmm.
Yeah, of his
it
era.
was
Yeah.
of his
Absolutely.
era, and that's where that's where again I need people to realize like it's okay if that's your personal. Don't make that thing feel like it's a requirement for everybody.
Hmm.
It's
A-
your personal, but that's it.
After Jordan, didn't he pass Kobe the torch after that? Then it was Kobe, right?
It's not that Kobe passed him the torch. And this is what I wanted to do real quick before we move on to the other stuff.
Okay.
Let's define these decades. So you look at it, and I kind of look at it almost like a JP kind of thing, post segregation type shit. So
Right.
from the 60s, you gotta look at a Bill Russell or Wilt
Chamberlain.
or Wilt. And you could kind of put them one and two. If you want to stack the rings up there with between them two, then Bill Russell takes it. You know what I'm saying? 70s to me, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar
And the
and
Lakers. Yeah.
what the Lakers was doing then. And I'm gonna bring that name up again in a second. 80s, it's the toss up between Magic and Bird. Like they owned that decade as a duo,
Yeah.
and
It's
we
Magic
can dip.
though. I think it's
Yeah,
Magic. Yeah. So what did Magic get? 5 or 4?
five total, I believe.
Yeah. So and how many did Bird get?
Three, I believe.
Three. I
Yeah.
think Bird has three. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Magic.
Okay, so we'll give it up to Magic.
Hmm.
The 90s we declared is all Jordans. 2000s, when you mention passing the torch to Kobe, you can't ignore Shaq.
Bingo. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Because I don't think Kobe, when your best player is an offensive position, there's a little bit more glory. Excuse me, it's a shooting guard. So there's a little bit more glory that came with that. When you could say, really, it went from Jordan to Shaq, and
Yeah,
then and then
Mm.
to Kobe. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And Kobe has 5 rings. What does Shaq have? 4?
Yes, I think Shaq has four.
Yeah. So and how many did Kobe win without Shaq?
Two.
one,
One.
One?
See,
one.
how many did Shaq win without Kobe?
No, he
Two.
did win two. He did
He
win
won
two
2.
because Kobe ended with five.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Shaq
So
got three in
yeah.
L.A. and
Mhm.
then one in Houston.
No,
I
No,
one in
say
Miami.
one in Miami. One in
yeah.
One
Miami.
in
I
Miami.
said it wrong. My bad.
It
One in
goes to
Miami.
Shaq to me because Shaq was already dominating when Kobe came into his own, and then
Right.
This is
they
true.
won those rings together, and
Hmm.
then Kobe still got 2, and Shaq got another one. But so to me they're equal. And then how do you discount Tim Duncan? It's all the same era.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Duncan's got 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not it just because Kobe was a shooting guard who idolized Jordan, who played like Jordan. I think that's the brain space that everybody went to when you had 2 other guys in this era that was just as good as what he did.
Yeah. Shaq was doing movies and shit.
Yeah.
And Tim Duncan was doing shit. It just wasn't flashy. And Tim
Yeah.
Duncan just unfortunately had the personality of an oak tree. So he wasn't out there like that, you know. Um, but I don't think there's anything Kobe did that was better than Tim Duncan. To say Kobe was he the goat of his era?
And then too, when you look at because this is a shout out to End of Regulation podcast. They had a my cousin and them. They had kind of a flawed, in my opinion, flawed discussion of most dominant. They had a kind of a flawed discussion of most dominant, and to me, they made the discussion of dominance by way of as soon as you step on the court, you have the ability to take over at any point. I think this is where the Jordan issue fogs people's minds up because Jordan was that one of one that could do that. He had off nights, yes, but he could do that when it was necessary. When the field, when the court and the game called for that, he was able to do it. But you got to look at once again in the NBA, you got to look at the discussion of most dominant by position also. And mentioning Tim Duncan,
Mhm.
my opinion, not just because he was who we seen But yeah, it kind of was because of who we seen. Probably was the most dominant power forward we have ever seen in any
And that was
generation
a
of basketball.
and that was a
Hmm.
great era of power forwards.
And
You got
centers.
Garnett in there.
Yes.
You got what's his face? Shit. He played out in
You got Garnett. You got Karl Malone. You got you
yeah.
got you got Barkley. Was, he was fading, but yeah. Um, yeah,
Sharif
Chris
Abdul
Webber.
Rahim, Chris Webber.
Yeah, man.
You
It
had
was.
you had even like Kerry Kittles and Kenyon Martin at one point. They were pretty strong with their team when it was with the Nets squad.
We still had Dirk Nowitzki was there. The game
Y-
was still played from inside out.
Yeah,
So that was
you're
that
right.
was a deep era.
Super deep, super deep. There's so much talent to go around. It's like it's going to be. That's where you got that rings conversation coming at because who ended up. It literally was like the Lakers and the Spurs battling out to see who's going to win the West every year. They traded like championships for like 3 or 4 years. It was crazy. You
Yep.
wasn't winning a championship in the East. It was the West and or nobody.
And then too, it was a young LeBron who came out, a young Melo. We gotta remember them. And Tim Duncan was still getting busy
That's
late
right.
in his late. I mean, he won what he won his first year in '98. He won the chip with San Antonio.
Yeah,
That
you
was
got
Robinson.
Paul Pierce, you got
Paul Pierce
Antoine.
too.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Cybertron.
Yeah.
Cybertron. So but mentioning Tim Duncan just reminded me of that discussion of you look at most dominant. When you're thinking most dominant in
Bill
NBA,
Russell,
you
hands
have
down.
to go by position.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to go by position in that case of dominance. And
Hmm.
and there's just so many intangibles to dominance. It's like one, it's you can almost do anything on the floor at any time. Two, how did like were you kind of said captain of the team? Did other teams fear you?
Hmm.
How did you play in said games that made you look like you were quote unquote dominant? Like that's why like people will talk LeBron James. LeBron James owns a level of dominance in so many different ways because he was a big man at the forward position who could play the game like a point guard.
Hmm.
And we really, really haven't seen a guy like him almost since Magic. But I think he could do more than Magic,
Yeah.
but that's also ties into the evolution of the game and where the game has went from, you know, the dribbling skills then weren't the same that they are now.
Mm-mm.
The speed of the game then is definitely not the same speed of the game now. Defensively, I'll give it up to the older eras because one thing and one thing only, hand checking and taking that away changed the game
It took it. It
dramatically.
took it took the game to a different place altogether.
Yeah, dramatically. And so it's like every era can claim somebody with a level of dominance that we've never seen before. At for their time. Like Charles Barkley, he was miscategorized as at like 6'8" or whatever. Meanwhile, he was legitimately 6'4",
Hmm.
but playing against guys bigger than him at the power forward slot and owning motherfuckers on the
He
floor.
was, he was beating him with his speed, which they
That
never
And
too.
his
seen
heart.
before.
His heart. His heart.
That
He's
too.
a
Yeah,
strong dude. He's a strong dude, man.
yeah,
Hmm.
you're right. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
he's
he is.
strong.
And think about the people he had to go against of that era when we're talking about Karl Malones and fucking
Dennis
the
Rodman.
Dennis
Rodmans,
All of
Rodman,
them. All of them. All the trees. Kevin
fucking
Willis.
the X-Men, fucking
oh
Yeah.
who else?
Mason,
Yeah, Anthony
Oakley.
Mason. Yeah.
Oakley.
Jesus
All
Christ.
of them dudes. Yeah.
And we had some of the baddest forwards, period, with the exception of Charles Smith, which I only say that because of the missed fucking still heartbreaking. But there's just so many conversations behind it that's it's flawed. But we mentioned Kareem before, and I've always said if you want to talk about a quote unquote best ever in the game of basketball, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has been the best player on the floor for the most part in most games he played in, and won at every single level.
Hmm.
state championships, 3-time national champion in college, 5-time or 6-time NBA champion. Michael Jordan didn't do none of that. Michael Jordan didn't pick up basketball to what they said his junior year of high school. You know what I'm saying? What
Yeah.
one national championship in North Carolina, I think, or two.
I think he just got the one over
I
Georgetown,
think it
He
right?
was
got the
one.
one.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
The
one.
one. That was the
So
beginning of him beating Patrick Ewing.
that's where I say, like, if there was, to be honest with you, if there was that one overall true number one of all time, to me it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, because the list of accolades is just, it's too vast. But if you want to
And
look only NBA, I can get why you think Jordan, but it still goes deeper than that.
It does. If you're
and the
going to
master
use,
of the most indefensible shot in all the land that nobody uses.
yeah,
The most you cannot defend the sky hook at somebody at that size.
And it's tough. There has been people who blocked it, but
Not
it's
many.
hard. It's very hard.
yeah, that's an anomaly when they block that. That's a once in a while thing. But
Hmm.
meanwhile, you have Bill Russell won 11 NBA championships.
One as a
Won,
player coach.
mhm. And if you want to talk dominance, what did they won like seven straight, didn't they? Eight straight?
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Hmm.
So
And when
you can't.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, Jamal. And when you say, and when people love to count rings,
Mhm.
they discount every single other player from that Celtics era who has 7, 8, 9 rings.
That's right. That's right. And Russell won those chips in the era of Wilt Chamberlain, who's also is in the conversation for GOAT status. So it wasn't like he was just running through everybody with nobody there. Wilt Chamberlain was in the league then, and the stuff Wilt Chamberlain was doing will never be done again.
Facts.
Never.
So will
Never.
never be done again. There was so he, at least you could point. It's like Ali and Frazier. You can point to that all-time great nemesis. You know what I mean? And a lot of these things, like Jordan didn't have that all-time great nemesis. Those teams he faced out west, nobody really remembers those teams.
Nope.
Those teams,
Yep.
you know what I mean. So I mean, it's pretty much back then. Once the Bulls came out the East, it was the ring was theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. Did they go 7 games? No, they never won 7 games, right? In
Never
any
won
championship
seven.
series. Yeah,
Never.
And in any.
and that
Never.
was an era when the East was dominant. So, yeah,
And then too, people who love to shit on this era and the quote unquote making super teams, putting people together. People love to instantly dismiss. Jordan was a guy who campaigned to get Dennis Rodman on that team, and even said it on the Last Dance that without Rodman, they wasn't winning them 3 rings.
no,
He
Without
knew what
Rodman,
Rodman was. He knew what Rodman was.
hmm
hmm and they also knew what Scottie Pippen was. But I
that's right.
digress on that.
Yeah,
So take that how y'all want. Super Jordan stands. It's cool if that's your favorite number one. But just remember that it's your favorite. Don't try to push it on us as it's like he is the end all be all. Even
hmm
I mean, even from the players who played in the league, I get it. Y'all seen it firsthand because y'all made it to a place that we haven't. Well, we watched the game just as long as y'all been playing the game too. And then when you know the game's history too, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like there's other intangibles that we can mention and speak of and things like that. And you can kind of use some intangibles to stack up against to make your arguments, but it's still you look at the whole game of basketball, it's still kind of and you could say this is a Knicks fan hate or not, whatever. It's Knicks bias all day in life for real. I don't care. But this is me also looking at it objectively and not just as a Knicks fan. I could give it up and say Jordan is the god of the 90s. There's no ifs,
I have
ands,
doubt
buts
he's the
about it.
goat of his era, and there's no shame in losing to that man. There was no shame.
Yeah,
But
well,
You know,
In that time, there was shame. It was heartbreak.
yes. In retrospect, you know now. If you look at all the ridiculously great players of that era, no one was getting nothing while he was playing.
that was
You know what I
that was
mean?
insane. That
Hmm.
And
title
that
should have
just shows
changed
what.
hands like 4 or 5 times.
Hmm.
So
All right. Well, that was that. I'll save the last TikTok thing for the end. But what else we got, Jamal?
what else do we got? So a couple of things that let's start off and continue what we were talking last week. Where
Well, wait. Hold on a second.
yes, sir.
We're talking in basketball,
Hmm.
and somebody has
Oh
been
yeah.
real sensitive on them internet
Oh
streets.
man.
Let us know
Yeah.
what the fuck and who it was that was being so sensitive.
Oh man. The assassin himself. On the court, this man is a killer. But off the court, I don't know what it is. When it comes to social media, this man, between his burner accounts or just getting easily offended, we talking about the one, the only KD. KD's back in the news again, man.
The
KD,
easy money sniper.
oh man, it's like he needs some friends to just tell him, hey, bro, it's all good. So K, KD, and I get what he was saying, but it's just like it just comes from him. It's like he's the only one that's irritated by these things.
So
KD,
what was said though? Because you're saying I get what he's saying, but what was
so
said for the people?
KD pretty much to summarize, and it's not an exact quote, that guys like Stephen A, Skip, and Shannon have changed the game for the worse. I think he said Mike and Steph have changed the game for the better. I think they were talking about GOAT stuff. And he said guys like Skip, Shannon, and Stephen A have changed the game for the worse. And he's taking the media shot. And there's some validity in that in sports media and it's in attacking the sports media. I get that, but it's low hanging fruit, and you look at the source who it's coming from, and and he just opens the door now for Stephen A. to go on a diatribe. And what makes me upset the most is that when he opens the door for Stephen, it doesn't upset me, but he opens the door for Stephen A. to go on these diatribes, and then some of it you have to agree with Stephen A. And that's what I hate. I hate agreeing with Stephen A. on anything, but um, KD just seems like Stephen. Actually, Shannon and a bunch of those guys brought up some good points where they were saying, you know, 90% of the talk about KD is how great he is how much of a killer he is. Every universally across the board, everyone always compliments. A lot of them even call him the best player today, the best player in the league. You say a little bit of criticism on or constructive criticism, basketball related, KD just loses his mind, and he's got to go to the internet streets and start spitting out his stuff, and it's just like he just may need to take a break from social media, man. It's just that comes with it. You're a superstar athlete, making earning the money you deserve because of the money you generate. But people are gonna cover that, man, and you're not gonna like everything you hear. Your uncle in the next room is gonna be saying shit about you. You're not gonna like it. You know what I mean? And that just is what it is. And uh, KD is thin skinned, and it wouldn't be, you know, if this was the first time something like this happened. But we all know about KD and his burn account. It's just part of who he is, you know. Um, but it's just funny. He can't stay off the internet, and he can't stay out these situations.
Right. Well, I get it, and there is tons of validity in what he says because they've built a track record over the past 20 years of this embrace debate style television,
Hmm.
which we did cover on the episode in the past of embrace debate. But there's tons of validity in it because let's remember the great Jalen Rose, the man
Hmm.
who Kobe Bryant put 81 on, but he put 100 on Skip Bayless with
That
that
was
water
oof.
pistol with the water pistol Pete comment. And it's true. And you could even point the finger like us, but we at people like us too at podcasters and stuff because we might not have never made it to NBA level. We never some of us maybe never made it past high school level, you know what I'm saying? But we've ingested the game of basketball I would say longer than the KD has been alive, some of
Mm-hmm.
us, to where we have seen things. But the problem goes back to kind of what we spoke on just a minute ago with the Jordan debate and the greatest ever debate. You're stuck in your time. And so nothing compares to your time. Just like how in rap, which is the conversations I love to hate the most, niggas who can't get out the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And it's KRS is I mean, KRS is my number one all time, but it's my number one all time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the nothing has been good since Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, KRS One. The list goes on and on. Nothing has been better than what I grew up on. And so these people are now getting paid 500,000 to millions of dollars. You know, in the Stephen A. case, 10 million plus to almost refute why you are not who you think you are, or they're in the place to big up who you are. I mean, sports media is partially responsible for why some of these athletes can get paid the way they do because the performance
That's it.
that they put on the floor
Mm-hmm.
and with them covering it, they're now amplifying your name and your voice for advertisers to say, hey, who is that guy? Let's look further into him. Here, we want you to promote these shoes for us. Here's this truckload of money. Here you
Mm-hmm.
go. We wouldn't know who you were if it wasn't for ESPN or Fox Sports or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be. So yeah, it's that double-edged sword of they do need to kind of guard what they or really go over what they say in some cases, even though in many cases, TJ, they're spitting the truth in some respects.
Hmm.
But they need to, in a way, they need to kind of also watch what they say because people hang on their every word, whether we like it or not. It's a reason why daily people can say they don't like Stephen A, yet Stephen A just speaks what he feels is his truth, and ESPN put that responsibility and instilled that within him because he brings people back to watch for more, whether it's you like what he's saying or it's a hate watch.
Mm-hmm.
He's bringing that value to them as a network and to you as a player because he's consistently name dropping you. We're leaving Kyrie out of this situation because when JP comes back, he
Mm-hmm.
specifically told me before we started he wanted to talk about why does Stephen A continuously go in on Kyrie. And I think in some small way, it goes to a comment that I made about the WWE on Wrestling is Trash. Please go follow Wrestling is Trash also, people. But we look at the WWE as you're producing shit and we watch, even though we'll dislike what we're watching, but we continue to hang on because we know you can do better. We know you can do better. And I think a lot of these reporters also kind of jump on some of these players because we know they could do better. It's just to when they get to analyzing shit that they've never been through when these guys actually experience it on the court and will tell it to you differently.
But you know, these guys they don't realize they bring it on themselves. Like if Katie don't say wild shit on Twitter, Katie don't have this problem. Kyrie don't say the world is flat and he's a flat earther. Nobody's coming at Kyrie sideways about some bullshit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like remember the whole shit with your man he's in Minnesota now, the shooting guard. They shipped his ass out of LA because he was social media in the locker room and caught his man cheating or some shit like that. You on mute, Dan.
My bad. I would know if I said that was D'Angelo Russell,
Yeah,
and
D'Angelo Russell.
that was different because D'Angelo Russell did not keep a bro code and snitched.
But like I said, if you don't want that attention, then don't do things that is going to bring you that attention. It's got to be on you at some point. Like if you don't put yourself in Derek Jeter, I say this all the time. Dude had a flawless baseball career. His list of women will probably never be touched in the history of getting the most baddest chick at a moment's notice time. Not a one bad thing was said about this man. No bad. Even with the bad press, he rolled with it. You know what I'm saying? He handled it in a way that you couldn't say anything about him. You couldn't say anything bad about him.
Yep. Yep. And he still hasn't hit what's the name? What was it? Will Chamberlain numbers or
No,
whose
he didn't
numbers?
need to. The quality. It was all about quality, bro.
Yeah, quality,
Hmm.
not quantity.
That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's you got to be mindful. Like I said before, double edged sword. You got to be mindful of yourself. And today, with today's hypersensitive world, and eyes are on everything and everybody, you can't be just moving out in these streets all willy nilly and think somebody ain't gonna be watching.
Hmm.
There's cameras on 24/7. Ever since 9/11 happened, Big Brother has been a thing,
Hmm.
a real thing.
Yep.
And but
And millions of people uh, obediently gave that shit up, gave away their
Yes.
privacy.
yeah,
And
Yes.
now, and they were warned back then. Once you let that dragon out, you cannot put it back in the cage. And
Mm-mm.
they did that. And now look where we are. Now they're complaining now. So, but you know, I do get part of what KD is saying, but like, it's a double-edged sword. And also, don't feed the beast though either. You know what I mean?
hmm
And that's another thing. Acting wild on Twitter and just being ultra sensitive to a machine that, like you said, Dan, not only helps enable you to get paid, but also actually grew the game because the NBA is bigger than it's ever been. And like it or not, a lot of that is in part to these pundits,
Word.
and that's it. It's just facts. And so
yeah,
you gotta take the bitter with the sweet, and that's just what it is. Now, do they
yeah,
pick on some players? Absolutely, absolutely. And like you said,
That's
JP will
that's what's making them the
respond.
money.
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. But
There's some
also,
players they target out, but
but just a slight part again against media when it comes to this is we've been in, like I said, I'm giving it at least 20 years. It's been a little bit longer
hmm
because of embrace debate style television. News in general has strayed away from facts and has become more opinion based to spin people's facts, to spin
sensationally,
things into,
yeah.
yeah, there you go, to
Hmm.
spin shit into what people will then feel are facts.
Yeah.
And that's where the flaw is in you're making it you're making it personal by putting your opinions on it and saying this is what it is and
Hmm.
you can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
And then you got a national platform to do so.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
where the
because
other flaw is. You got a
And it's
national platform, you're on TV, the networks are trusting your word. So now the networks are also utilizing you in to get people to trust your word. And that's where
mhm.
a part of the flaw comes in also.
That's just a symptom of a greater problem is not it's corporate news and pretty much five entities owning 90% of the media globally. And that is the problem with that's the problem with pretty much everything, with information in general.
yep.
When there's only a finite amount of sources giving you this information, the same companies owning all the newspapers, owning 50 news stations, you know, um, owning networks, you're gonna get the same flawed information going out.
Yep, it's the truth.
No,
It's
that's
the
another
truth.
show.
But next up, Jamal.
Next up, what was it? So continuing from last week's show, we were talking about the gun violence, the spray of gun violence in the Second Amendment, and, which is, you know, let's call it what it is. This is a straight up American phenomenon. Um, so there was there's a shooting in Philadelphia, another mass shooting in Philadelphia,
Yeah, I
this
read that
morning.
this morning.
I think in the wee hours of the morning, and there was also one in Chattanooga today, where three were dead and 14 people got shot. So it's like this is ramping up, and there's actually now a website called the Gun Violence Archive that lists all the mass shootings that that take place, and
Really?
it is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, it tells you all the mass shootings that have taken place in the country, and um, here we are again, re, just revisiting. It's just like you can't go more than 2 or 3 days without another situation, and the news cycle changes, and there's still no movement. There's still no movement on any type of background checks or gun control when, and I don't want to speak for all of you, but I feel like we're a pretty pro gun show. Um, responsible gun ownership, which is like the majority of the country, which is like the majority of gun owners. They want responsible gun ownership. They want background check, but we just can't get it through this government that we have.
Yeah. And
And
yeah, and rest in peace to the people who just lost their lives
mhm,
everywhere. I know specifically, we wanted to touch on the Philly thing, and there was a point within that something, the great TikTok space. A lot of people preach, the social justice stuff,
mhm,
and especially recently because of all the gun violence things. A lot of people have been talking about how watch how, because we as a people have been calling it out, that mass shootings, especially when it comes to public spaces like schools, malls, or wherever, the movie theaters, things like that, has been a majority white issue. But then there was like, watch how the news is going to spin things, like how they love to mention Chicago. They love to mention, Chicago is the thing, and Chicago is the ground zero for all these violence things, which one guy actually pointed out Chicago ain't even in the top 10
nope.
in the country of gun violence and of gun violence, not gun issues, but gun violence. Chicago ain't even in the top 10. But watch how the news and everybody's going to spin mass shootings when it comes to a gang shooting, or
Hmm.
say like a shooting at a party or something, where we are people have been saying it recently. Black folks don't go to schools or big places looking to spray up everybody. There's usually a target,
Hmm.
but now they're going to utilize that to try to level the playing field of who is seen as mass shooters. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. But like the Philly incident, I mean, it sounded like probably like some turf beef, head to head beef type shit, and innocent bystanders. Which again, what the fuck are y'all doing, people? You know what I'm saying? And we're going to Philly in 2 weeks. Like, I don't, nah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I know how to move around. We are of an age where we know how to maneuver around. We know how to not stay in spaces like that or be in space. Actually, the event we're going to ain't about that. You know what I'm saying? And that's the
Hmm.
way you should move. Go in spaces that you shouldn't have to worry about that. But also, you should be able to move around and not have to worry about that anywhere.
Yeah.
You should be able to
We
move
we
around and not
used
have to
to.
worry.
We
Yeah,
used to be able to do that. We
yeah.
damn sure did.
And I mean, and yeah, cats used to do wild shit, but also too, with in some cases, I'm not putting this out there as all, but in some cases, if people were going to go do something to somebody, they knew time and place. There were wild cats that would just pop the gun off in the party to have people scatter and do dumb
Hmm.
shit like that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
But they
Yep.
weren't popping the gun like this more, unless they were going after one person,
Hmm.
unless they were going after one person. Now, Will, shout out to Will, he asked, define responsible gun use.
Responsible gun ownership.
No, he
That's
asked.
all. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, well, yeah, we said responsible gun ownership, but he said define responsible gun use. That's a up in the air kind of thing. But go ahead, Jamal or TJ.
I mean, the only way I see responsible gun use, somebody was entering your home, you'd be very responsible with the gun at that point. Um, but I think it's just talking about the lack of education when people buy these guns. Most of them buy it thinking it's out of a necessity in their nice upper class neighborhood that somebody's going to come kick in the door at 4 in the morning on them is ridiculous. But not going taking the proper classes. Like to drive a car, you need to go to a class for at least a whole day, and most of that is a safety class about drunk driving, responsible driving, texting and driving. We don't do that for no kind of gun. Like there's no class, there's no certificate you got to get. You just apply, make sure
And wait.
you don't got no felonies on your
Mm-hmm.
record, and wait. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
just that, and it's not so much even that, TJ. It's just trying doing something to try and keep them out of the wrong hands. Not everybody is qualified to own one, and
This is true.
that's the majority of the problem. Is the majority of gun owners want responsible gun ownership and want background checks and want to make sure folks who are a danger to themselves or people around do not have access to these weapons. And
Right.
we have some states that just pretty much they hand they'll hand that shit out, you know. And
Texas.
just Texas is one. Just to go backwards, you want to fix the problem in Chicago. The problem with Chicago is Indiana, because Indiana's got some of the dumbest gun laws on the record. Actually, lack of them.
There you
You know what I
go.
mean?
Well, like,
Um,
okay. And he made a comment saying, well, let me get to shout out to Omega Son, good brother. He said, responsible gun use to me is the education and awareness to know that it is last resort and tool. Proper management and security responsibilities from its owner. That right there is what I agree with. Because, yeah, well, you know what? It's like we want background checks. Everybody who's more anti-gun or at least proper of some type of mental capacity or mind state to say, okay, we should be able to own guns, but you should have some type of awareness of how to use, what to do with, when to use it.
mhm,
There's a whole bunch of things. I'm gonna get to that back in a second, but the background check thing is kind of like this, because I look at it from the standpoint of many states don't allow lie detector tests to be admissible in court because those can be easily manipulated. So when we're thinking background checks with guns, how far do we want to allow the government into our lives to make sure that we can kind of subjectively be assumed as responsible gun
It
owners?
should be like 10 years. It should be like 10 years.
Right, but now it's a 10 years of okay, criminal record, I get that. That's an easy one. But now it's are we allowing governmental access to our social media accounts, which within the two major ones that we just went through in Buffalo and in Uvalde, they left breadcrumbs all over the place. They left breadcrumbs all over their social medias. So, but we look at social media as a public space where we should be able to speak our minds, but they're also run by private companies. So now are we allowing private companies to now open it up to the government freely? Because then when you get to a person like me talking about my recent restrictions on Facebook,
mhm.
so now you're allowing the government to go even further into my account, to research me because I want to own a gun. There's some parameters and a lot to
I,
discuss
get- I, get- I get I get what
within
you're
that.
saying with that.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
it's it's gun yeah, background
It's
check criminally for sure. But how far, and that's a deeper question that we're not looking to answer right now. But that's just one of them aspects we got to
yeah.
look at. But it's to what TJ said, what we said last week. It's you should require training. I am sorry. I don't give a fuck who you are. There should be a certain amount of hours of gun training that you have to go to a range for and get certified for by certified gun gun trainers. There are many shooting classes out there. Shout outs to the rapper Twister. He's been heavy on guns in these later years recently, and I know like on his last drink on the drink champs he was preaching the whole gun thing there, but he was doing it talking about it from the responsibility aspect of learning how to shoot properly, learning how to hold a gun, maintain a gun, properly putting, all the things that go into what we look at as responsible
I
gun
mean,
ownership
if the
is that's
police,
what should be taught.
right, but if police have to go through firearms training for their job, why can't the general public have some type of firearms? They're not even using the gun as much as a cop would be using it. So they should be going through that type of training before or during the purchase of the gun. After the background check, you gotta get certified.
That's the key point. And I agree with all the training and all that stuff. That comes in after you've been cleared to even have access to a weapon.
Yeah, that's what I'm
And
saying. That's the
and
last
so
step.
yeah, and I agree with all that. The fact
Yeah.
is, we do have to do something to try and you're not gonna the net's not gonna catch everybody, but you have to do something to curb the amount of access a lot of these folks who are getting their hands on these weapons have, because even with simple background checks, if you look at all these mass shooters, the majority of these mass shooters, it did not take an intense examination of their background to see all the red flags.
Yeah,
It was right there on their social media. It was right there in their mental history. It was right there on their criminal records.
like
It,
to
it
the Uvalde, the kid in Uvalde.
yeah, you
People
know.
with I mean, again, this is civilians
Mhm,
breaking this down to how could this kid afford almost 2,500 to $5,000 to pull off what he did at
mhm.
18 years old.
Yeah, help.
It's shit like that. It's like how could you afford it? It is one of them questions. It's I guess if there's a background check that can determine that, who knows? But let me get through some of the comments. Like Will said, if you're not fully committed to the possibility that you will take a life, do not get a gun. And see, that's one of them things that a lot of people out there are shooters for sport. There are many people out there shooters for sport, but I, for the most part, most gun owners that just keep it in the home buy it with that notion in mind. Protecting home, protecting family, first and foremost. That's it. And that's where the problem is. The highlight is the people who go out and do the crazy shit. That's where all these things and all the issues surrounding it get highlighted, because there are these brazenly wild motherfuckers that go out and do the dumb shit with the guns, which calls the question, which then hurts the people who do go to the range consistently, do properly know how to maintain their guns.
Hmm.
And I'm talking from breaking them down, putting them up in cases, cleaning them, oiling them, all the shit that you're supposed to know how to do with gun ownership. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we could look at gang problems and kids would get a fucking, as they would call it, a rusty 38 or whatever, and just keep it in the house just for self-protection, which to me, even self-protection is fine too. Because like we just said, we were going in Philly in a couple weeks. We're going to Philly in a couple weeks. I don't own a gun. I don't need to carry one either. But if you're in a position where somebody's pointing one back at you, you get caught with your pants down, unfortunately. But then it calls the question, the person with the gun in their hand, why the fuck are you out there doing that? Why can't you just allow a person that you ain't got nothing to do with to just live their life? They're not
Hmm.
trying to bother you. But then that spins the rabbit hole down even further to haves, have nots, community situations and how they're being brought up. The historical lines that we could go down that put people in these positions is too vast and too deep of a conversation to pull off while we're having now. We would have had to start the conversation from the beginning of the show to really, really try to diagnose all the problems. And then to be honest with you, within a podcast space, this would be a 6 to 8 hour or freaking month-long conversation. Consistent month-long conversation of straight recording, no stops, to really, really break down how people get in positions, these bad positions, to where you want to take somebody's life for nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things: job, lack of job, lack of opportunities. Um, some people are just mentally not there, but that's where background checks can come in. That's where I agreed with TJ with the going out and training. You that's the minimum. The minimum should be you had to have at least 80 to 100 hours of training, or something like that. Something like that. Let me go through some more of the comments. Omega Sun says psychological tests and references are more important to me, which is I kind of agree
Yep,
with that. Agree with that.
100%.
I'm against, or rather ask for more stipulations for assault weapons. That's my issue. Totally agree with that. Because like we said last week, Jamal, we can have all the assault rifles we want. And let's remember, people, assault rifles are made for one thing:
That's it.
mowing down people.
Murder.
They're
That's
not
it.
for hunting. They're
It's
for
called
mowing.
an assault rifle,
Exactly.
not a BB rifle, not a play gun.
Exactly.
Assault. Anything that leads with assault is not. It doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
Hmm.
And even with you having that, the day that this government turns its military against the American people, you lost,
You lost.
because they have everything already.
Hmm.
You're gonna start see when the day you start seeing these Master Chief suits walking down walking down fucking Broadway or Sixth Ave or some shit. The game is already over.
Hmm.
It's
You
just
think you
like,
got nice guns, but you don't have nicer ones than the government.
yeah,
Trust me.
it's
They got all
literally
the fly shit.
it's literally just like how, say, the MTA will have a community meeting about fares and tolling and stuff like that. They don't have those public meetings until the decision has already been made. That decision has already been made. You're just going in to voice your
We just
opinion
telling you
for
about
them
it.
to just sit there and be like, mm-hmm. Yeah, we're letting you know and letting you voice your opinions properly, but we're gonna do this shit anyway. The government already
Yeah.
got the shit. It's just when do they bring it out? So you're gonna lose in that aspect. But there's still responsible ownership in owning something like that. Again, you gotta be protecting yourself. And that's it. Not on some fucking let me go out and tear apart and break down people's lives. That's just fucked up. More comments. So Megasun said many of gun purchases are straw purchases and wind up in the hands of a 13-year-old in Brownsville.
Yep.
Remember the movie Strap? Absolutely. Where again, irresponsible gun ownership had the dude had the kid turning the gun this way.
Hmm.
No, you're not supposed to fucking shoot like that. Fucking shot my first gun at the age of 7 by accident. Went through trauma for months. Maybe still going through it. That sucks to read. And he
Hmm.
said, the ultimate mush to the head, telling us after the fact. That's what we was just talking about now. Like, yeah, like dummy.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
like you thought, like bitch,
It's
you
not
thought.
like it's not like they're not gonna see you coming either. Like, they're gonna have people. Your best friend is gonna be the one that's gonna get your ass got. You know what I'm saying? You thought you was gonna shoot back at the government and me die with you? Oh hell no. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like, you know what? And it's like you're gonna go down. Do you go down with a fight? Hey, okay, you went down with a fight, but you're gonna go down. And like
yeah,
I said before, ever since 9/11 and Big Brother always watching, these motherfuckers know already. They
Yeah.
know. So we're losing already, and it sucks. It sucks. We're losing. It's like when talking to JP before. Like, I'm not revealing nothing I can't talk about with him, but I mentioned the January 6th shit, and I've said it on here before. Imagine if that situation went down where everybody in America understood this government was actually fucking us. Not because you lost an election, you fucking idiots. Not because your boy lost an election, but white, black, brown, Chinese, Indian, whatever, Native American. We all as a people realized this government was fucking us and did the storming of the Capitol. It's kind
That
of
would
in the
be different. That
it's
would be different.
and it's kind of in the Constitution that can be done. But also the Second Amendment is really speaks towards a militia fighting against a tyrannical government more than you, the single individual, owning the gun. And
They
that's and that,
bastardized.
A
They
well-regulated
bastardized.
militia. That's what it is.
yeah,
A
Yes,
yeah.
well-regulated militia.
they bastardized that Second Amendment so bad to
Mhm,
make it what they wanted to mean.
right,
It wasn't written with that intent of everybody carrying a strap. Shit, everybody had a strap back then anyway.
right,
It wasn't. They wasn't going into schools and shooting half the school up and shit.
right.
You know what I'm saying? I know
And
the Wild West was crazy, but there was no when it was mass shooting, it was gang on gang. You know what I'm saying? At
Mhm.
that
right,
point,
right. And it was almost a level like they had him, you had him. Now
right?
go toe to toe. But and like Jamal, you said, regularly a well-regulated militia. That's what it specifically defines over you, the individual. But like
Mhm.
TJ said, it's bastardized. And no disrespect to you, Jamal. No disrespect to any believers. I look at that. I look at how people translate that as people translate the Bible. The Bible's words are right there, but we go to churches, we go to places where people preach it and put their spin into it to make it fit
Their
updated
narrative.
life
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and their
yeah.
narrative. When you don't need a preacher to tell you that. If you choose to believe in that book, the words are there. Why do you need to go outside of what's documented? Don't spin it. And that's a lot of people done with this Second Amendment is they spun the conversation to make it fit their narrative for the time.
That was all NRA, bro. That was all the NRA.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and it's not just them. It's there's multiple gun lobbies out there that are doing it, and people and the people they buy off. But at the same time, it just comes back to, and shout out to the homie Will. He actually touched on this also on his podcast. But it goes back to who has access to these things, and not everybody deserves access, and that's my belief. Not
Yeah,
everybody is qualified to have access to these things, and you know these mass shootings, like I said again, it's an American phenomenon because this stuff only happens here. There's been almost 30 mass school shootings in this country in 2022. 30,
that's
This
right?
year.
crazy.
30. So,
That's crazy.
and it's not just that Americans love guns and any of that stuff. 'Cause tell you what, you know who has just as many guns as we have? Switzerland. All right, they all get gun training. They have Switzerland doesn't really have a standing army, so everybody gets training. They get militia training. They have access to all the same weapons. They get all that stuff. You know how many people got murdered in Switzerland last year? If there was 10, that's a lot.
In the
Right.
entire country.
Yeah, they all
Or
are armed to the teeth. Try breaking into somebody's house in Switzerland. You know what I mean?
or like when we mentioned the Australia thing,
Hmm.
there was a mass shooting back in the early 80s
Yeah,
with an assault rifle. What did
that was it. It's
Australia
bye bye.
do? Ban assault rifles. There hasn't been a mass shooting since. There hasn't been a mass shooting since.
So yeah, it's just about who's getting these things. That's the first step, and
Right.
you're not gonna stop everybody. You
Yeah.
get that, but you can put a dent in what's going on right now.
Hmm.
You
And the
know,
problem is the states like Texas where they do
Texas.
believe everybody can own them, but they just literally stripped it down to where anybody can walk into a gun shop. You got $250. It's like them car commercials out here. It's like
Mhm.
you got $1 in a job. You can own your brand new Hyundai Sonata for $400 a month, and you just come in with $1 and a job. Like, is
Mhm.
if you got 250 and you are an adult, you can go in and get yourself a new pistol with no questions
Yep.
asked, no nothing asked.
No permit. You can conceal carry. You can own without a permit now in Texas. And I don't
Mhm.
even think so much as they believe that the people in charge, the government of Texas, has been paid enough by those gun lobbies
Yeah, yep.
to force
But
that. And
you know
so,
what they were saying? There was there was like if there's a shootout going. Oh, they was talking to one guy. So a guy comes at me and he pulls out his gun. I'm gonna start shooting. I'm gonna start shooting at him. And it said what are you gonna do when the cops show up? Because the cops don't know who the fuck the good guy is, and they're shooting everybody at that
Don't
point. You
matter.
know
The
what
cops ain't shooting nobody anyway. We just saw that. That theory got debunked last week in November. That theory got debunked. The good
Not
guy
to
was the
laugh,
dude that
not to
slapped the
laugh
bad guy.
at it.
Yeah,
Word, not to laugh at it, but hey,
yeah.
it's,
Debunked. Done.
mm, mm,
Finito. So,
yeah. But Kurt, before we move on to why we even led into that, because of a new s- a new person running for Senate in Georgia, Curtis said these young heads out here think the gun gives them power. That energy sticks to them like a bad jacket if they are not doing it right.
mhm.
I absolutely. There is nothing that can suppress the pale man's bloodlust. They will seek a way to satisfy it. See Michael Bradley's book, The Iceman Inheritance.
um, just the
Can
other
we?
day, real quick, a
Mhm.
12-year-old robbed a gas station with his grandfather's gun, and the lady thought she was playing around until he let a shot off in the ceiling, took the money, and bounced. 12 years old.
That's an irresponsible gun owner in that house. How does the kid get access to the gun that easily? Now,
That's what.
but see, then it goes back to proper training and having understanding what to do with it in the house. Because I if you have kids, I believe the kids should know where it is, what to do with it, but also be raised to learn the right way to utilize it.
Not to be afraid of it.
Right. Not to be afraid of it is the most important thing. But under what pretenses you use it.
Right.
This doesn't leave the house, and this is to protect you at home.
And you tell nobody you have it. You know
That's
what I'm
it.
saying?
But if you want to put media and what we consume on a daily basis, it can play a factor. It can play a factor. I don't like to put our culture of hip hop and rap music into play, but kids do get influenced by things they listen to, hear, and see. I am not blaming. I am not blaming. I'm just stating it as a matter of kids do get influenced by shit. You know what I'm saying? But I will not be of what the media does and point the finger at, like, see, it's them niggas over there. They told them to,
Mhm.
no, 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 because what is that kid's environment at home first before what he's consuming on a daily basis? They don't want to do that because in America, it's great to put the responsibility off yourself and put that shit somewhere else.
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we can take a look at one of my favorite albums, It Was Written. Track number 4, I Gave You Power. Lays everything
Hey,
out.
There you go. Kurt said, as a kid, I was curious. It was in the car. I saw it and picked it up. Next thing you know, I shot into the building across the street. It was a garage, but anything could have happened.
Hmm. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. As they say, curiosity killed the cat, and curiosity can also, unfortunately, kill human beings. And he said this was in like 80, 81. God damn it, you old. You should have been here for the Wilt conversation. You could have told us what it was firsthand. But Jamal, to wrap this up, we got to talk about the fucking the walking CTE himself.
Mm. Good old, good old Herschel.
Oh God.
So Herschel done wrapped up the nomination. Did it without a single debate. Lets you know, says a lot about the voting bloc that put him there and what their requirements are. Um, and he's all set to square off against highly educated, responsible, and I think he may be an ordained minister, Raphael Warnock. And I think Raphael is just waiting for those debates. And at least that first debate will tell you everything. People gonna vote. They're gonna vote for Herschel anyway. But Herschel has to say he's been racially indifferent at best is probably accurate, and it's kind of been his whole career. Folks who know him even back in the day kind of uh, expressed that Herschel kind of stayed out of anything anything that was remotely where he had to take a side or stand up for something, some sort of situation where social justice or racial justice needed a unifying force behind it, and he was avoidant to stuff like that. So, I mean, out of his own lips, he said Donald Trump's not racist. Okay. Um, he's got a troubling past, which is going to come to light a little bit more. They seem to let that go from his divorce, and from it's also been released that he has multiple personality disorder, although they call it something different, which is scary. But I think he is walking CTE. He can't formulate a full sentence or a full idea on anything, and I think Herschel does more damage. How do I put this, man?
Just say it.
Yeah.
Just say it.
You can say it like him because Oscar Mayer had a dog, E-I-E-I-O,
yeah.
and the Dallas Cowboys are the greatest thing in the NBA.
And you know, mustard wasn't always yellow. So. That's messed up. That's messed up. That's messed up. You know,
Yo, that was messed.
Oh,
man.
Sam's he sets us back, man. He sets us back, you know, and he's got a bunch of handlers, and he's running through hoops. He's just jumping through hoops.
Man, listen, we've seen Donald Trump pull it off. This is why a big dummy like him can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly why a big dummy like him could pull it off. And again, they said he plays chess with no dark pieces. I can believe that. He just it's either clear pieces or all white pieces. But yeah, I mean, this shame on you, Georgia. I mean, he's not in the position yet. And if y'all are intelligent enough, y'all should make sure that doesn't happen.
I think he's going to get washed.
As he should, but
I think he's going to get
in the general
washed.
election. Yeah, he should. He should. But it's just
this is where the American people are, though. When it comes to that side, it's just like anybody who co-signs whatever stupid shit that they believe in, they run with. And the fact that he's a black man, they can just be like, well, this is what y'all been looking for. Y'all been looking for more people of color. Y'all been looking for more people of color in these positions. Well, we're going to show you that, hey, I am not racist.
That's always been
I
the
picked
plan.
a black man. And it's the wrong black man.
You know what? If they were smart, they would have got an intelligent black person to do that. If they gave him enough money and put their train behind him, like a real intelligent brother. But I don't. They don't. It's trying to find that brother too. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's part of it. Because somebody intelligent wouldn't take those political points. That's the whole thing. You know
right.
what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, they just that's the new way to try and play racial identity politics, is to use somebody that looks like the people you're trying to.
Why they always pick like the worst one? They always pick like the worst one. Like
that's how racism works. They can't tell the difference. But and plus, and he signed it. He'll sign up for it because he's a yes boss.
Yeah, you know he is.
So he signed up for it, and it's Fox News does the same thing. Spew racism with somebody of the opposite race, so you can hide behind it and say, "Well, it's not racist if they said it, or if they're doing it." Right. You know, that's the playbook. But Herschel, man, I don't even know if he's qualified to run a day camp, more or less be a senator.
Oh, I found how he's gonna talk in the debates.
Apologize myself. Speaking, my incarceration has forced, you understand, the ventilation of, shall I say, my dairy air. And upon my discharge, I will ejaculate my mind to the prophylactic of the bowels of society.
That's exactly how he spoke when he tried to talk against the gun shooting and the gun violence situation in
You
Uvalde.
gonna have
Like literally,
Ti.
he
Ti's gonna
sounds
write his
just like that,
speeches.
expeditiously.
Fam, I'm trying to find this one piece where he was trying to explain. He said he had this dry mist that would kill all the COVID once you walk in the building.
I heard about. I saw that. I seen him talking about that shit. Once you walk in, COVID's dead.
He said, I got a dry mist. I was like, oh man, bro.
That
I
shit was
gotta.
hysterical. I'm surprised they didn't laugh in his face when he said that.
He did. He must have said that while still,
Oh shit.
drinking that Dick Gregory from back in the day.
Bro,
Yo, dude.
it's just
Dude, I had to
tragic,
bust
man.
out laughing right there. I would have been like,
It's
yo,
so tragic.
yeah, I would have busted out laughing. A dry mist, huh?
A dry mist, bro. He
I
got it
gotta
right
use
here in his
that.
pocket.
I gotta use that. It was like a dry mist. What?
Even when he's speaking, it's like he's looking at somebody that's not there, and even the crowd. It was wild. His eye just be like, I'm like, yo,
Your man lost.
he,
He
he's
sees
done.
he sees the ghost of old white slave masters.
Oh man, this is too funny.
He said prime. He said Primatine missed ass nigga. Oh man,
That's
Uh,
horrible.
it's safe to
uh,
say that this man is a fucking fool. And yeah, I mean, it's shit like this now that makes you forget that this man was an outstanding football player, and don't even
Incredible
care.
athlete, yeah.
You don't even fucking care anymore. Like it makes you think like, yo, how did you pass? You know what? There was no passing of any kind of smarts tests. You know, like he should have been lucky that he didn't have to take the Wonderlic test as a running back. All you gotta do is just be able to put your head down and go, run, nigga, run, and be fast. That's it. Because if he'd have passed that, if he had to take that Wonderlic test back then, somebody took it for him.
Yeah, fam, he's got, well, they don't call it multiple personality disorder anymore. It's known as dissociative identity disorder.
ain't that the
And
same thing?
this is a nicer way of saying it, yeah. So he said he was able to overcome his multiple personalities with therapy and his faith in Christianity.
Oh boy.
And what else? Yeah. Walker was also dinged by numerous reports that he overinflated the success of his chicken distribution business. I don't know why that's funny, but anyway, it's funny.
This is black man chicken. It's hand in hand. He lived the
Bro,
stereotype.
he got a chicken distribution business. Okay. Yeah, man. I don't know. He gives me the same vibes old boy gave me that died. What's his name? That didn't believe in COVID and went to that damn
Oh,
speech without a mask.
Herman Cain. Herman Cain.
Okay, with his Godfather pizza. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Herman Cain.
And just another dude that just would talk in circles. But actually, Herman King had it more together than Kirchhoff. I shouldn't say that, but
Nah, yeah.
he played for the wrong side and believed in the wrong philosophies, and that shit ended up killing him.
Man, listen.
Some-
Middle of
sometime-
pandemic, he's in the crowd. He's in the fucking crowd, no mask on. Middle of high pandemic. This is before the vaccine. Everything else. This dude struggling through cancer. Decide he's gonna take that chance. 10 days later, he's done. He's toast.
Sometimes people got to learn the hard way, bro.
Gotta learn
Play
the
stupid
hard way.
games. Yeah.
Win
Yeah.
all the stupid prizes. I used to teach that to my kids all the time back in the day. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But speaking of games, I switched it up again in my mind. We're gonna wrap this up with the TikTok question of the week coming off my page because I replied via this, and we all played video games back in the day. So y'all tell me what you think.
Which forgotten game from the past would you like to bring back to the present? Part 2. This right here.
Super Spike V-Ball, the amount of fucking hours I played this game, I definitely would like to see an updated version. Um, yeah, but with obviously not these orange looking motherfuckers in the game. And then next up, Little League Baseball Championship Series. This is one of them games that, again, I still play to this day on all the emulators. As much as I hate Little League Baseball for personal reasons, those personal reasons are real petty. It's because I never made All Stars, and I was always the best player on my team.
Mm.
But I would like to see a remake of this game for sure, and it better have Danny Almonte in it.
Which
So what do y'all say to that, man? What type
Ooh,
of what
that's a
type of
great
old
question.
school game would you like to see come back? Like
Ooh, I
some
got
people
one.
some people mention double dribble.
Yep.
Some people
That's up
mention
there.
double dribble, and to that, I'll show you real quick. I'll show you real quick when somebody mentioned double dribble. I don't say that because we got 2K. I would
Hmm.
rather see live come back than 2K because I don't
Yeah.
like the 2K games. But this is my response to double dribble. It must have this for a remake.
Mm.
If they brought that back, it's got to have that
Hmm.
same Miss Dunk sound.
Yes, sir. Yep.
What y'all say?
So I'm going way back for my first pick, and this is for I'm talking about Atari 2600 days.
Ooh.
Um, Pitfall. I used to love that
Pitfall.
game.
Yeah.
Pitfall.
They've remade Pitfall over the years in different
Have they?
ways.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen it, but that and I would like Double Dragon to come back. I used
Hmm.
to love that game. Double Dragon was a shit.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But nowadays it would be they would definitely for insensitivity reasons,
Oh
it would
yeah.
be one black dude, one white dude. And then the woke crowd to come out. How come he's not Asian? They're martial artists. How come you didn't put the Asians in? Shout outs to Iron Fist. But they'll definitely find a way to complain about that. But that would be dope. I wouldn't mind Double Dragon. Just
Yeah. For
imagine the
me.
open world aspect of Double Dragon that they could do
Oh.
now. Like,
Oh
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. That'd be crazy. Um. For me, for one, would well, not that old, but Fight Night, the boxing game.
Oh,
Um.
they need to bring that back, bro.
Yeah. There is a new boxing game, ESBC Sports, that's coming out that they made over the UK, and it looks ridiculous. The
Really?
collection of fighters it has, it looks ridiculous. It's got a lot. It's got yeah. Check that. I'll share the link to that trailer for that game.
All
So
right,
that
cool.
looks ridiculous. But yeah, Fight Night is one. Um, and shit, it was the other Contra.
Yeah. Contra was dope.
Contra, I lost hours playing Contra, man.
I think they did do well. They did Contras, I think, early 2000s, but
Hmm.
something different. Again, open world, kind of Halo esque, maybe would possibly work just because of the spreader. You gotta give me
Hmm.
the spreader.
The spreader, yeah, the spreader,
You got to
yeah.
give me the spreader.
Hmm.
No code, but make it 30 lives off the rip because there's no beating that game without the 30 lives. Even it's
Bro.
hard. It's
Hmm.
hard. I might have done it once, maybe, just to try, but that shit is so 3 lives and that's it.
Yeah, that
You
was
know,
hard,
and
bro.
and you gotta remember, we're of that era where when you had to restart a video game, you had to start from the fucking beginning.
Ooh,
Man, you don't know
bro.
No
how
save.
tight you used to be to get to some save points, boy. But fuck,
Yeah,
I gotta make
Man,
it.
for real.
on
You
regular
want to?
NES, there's a game called Golgo 13
I
back in the day.
remember Gogo
Yep.
13.
Oh, oh, they made a game out of that. That was
Yes, sir. That was a
It's
movie.
anime.
Jap.
Yeah,
Yeah, anime.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
I
they
didn't know
made
they
a
made a
game off
game
of
for
that.
that.
Yeah, that game
Oh,
was
that must have
rough.
been
Shit.
bananas.
It was like James, it was like Japanese James Bond is what it was like.
Yeah. So you was
But
sniping cats and shit like that.
you sniping cats and everything back then. Yeah, but
Oh, that
man,
was dope.
if you lost your lives and you had to restart those missions, that's why I never finished the game. I was like, I'm not going through this shit again.
Look, I'm showing you right now. This
Yep.
Gogo 13 or
Oh
or
shit.
Top Secret.
Hmm.
I have this on the emulator.
Gotcha.
Remember
Okay.
that game Spy Hunter? Spy Hunter was
Oh
good.
yeah.
Yeah, many hours at Ian's house playing
Hmm.
Spy Hunter.
I
Spy
still
Hunter was
remember
real good.
the MIDI bass line on that damn song, that theme song. Yep.
Man,
Yeah, Duke Togo.
yep.
Yeah, man, he's a bad man.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's so many. I think I have Spy Hunter on here. No, I don't. But yeah, like, but so the funniest shit though, like, if I don't know if y'all do these emulated games and shit, but like the funniest things be these. They make emulators. I mean, the emulated games and hacked versions. This is Afro Mario. That's supposed to be Mario with an afro. There was a version that I had at one time that was they. It was Super KKK Bros, and they literally had Mario in a clan outfit.
That's
No,
crazy.
no.
There was too many. There was too many games like that. Kurt said Shinobi and Street Ball joint.
Yep.
Elevator action. Wow. Somebody
Somebody,
said Duck Hunt. I know. Somebody said Duck Hunt, and I said if you do if you do Duck Hunt, you got to do the Duck Hunt with Gyromite. I don't know if y'all
Gyromite.
remember
The
Gyromite.
little
oh yeah,
robot. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Rob the Robot. We had that first we had that first NES version with Rob that came with Rob, and
yeah.
Hmm.
Rob was supposed to be able to be your second player in that game,
Mm.
Right.
and it was so hard to get to work right. Like we tried on ends and ends, and all we ended up really getting it to do was Rob also came with a top, and you put the top in its hands,
Yeah, and it
and
was
it would
spin it.
spin it, and then you let it
Right,
drop.
right.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that's what it used to open up the poles in Gyromite.
Mm.
Mm, that's
Yep.
dope.
I was, yeah. Damn, Rob the robot. That's
Somebody wanted to bring back Def Jam versus
Yeah, everybody wanted Def Jam Vendetta or Jeff Jam
yeah,
Fight for New York,
yeah.
but I never played those. I never
mm.
played those because I played the wrestling games back then, but my favorite wrestling game still to this day, to me, it's still the best was the WCW versus NWO World Tour, and then WCW World Tour, and then WCW versus NWO Revenge. To me, those were the best because then when THQ dropped WCW, went to WWE, I didn't I was so pro WCW at that time, even though I still love the WWE. I just looked at it like, oh, y'all are biters, y'all are corny. And I didn't like how the THQ translated to WWE shit. But most of the young people of the 30-year-old range nowadays, that's their favorites because they grew up on when it was just WWE
Hmm.
or WWF, No Mercy, when it was back in the day. But yeah, give me a great wrestling game again because 2K is what it is with 2K. I haven't played it yet, but oh, the thing I forgot, and then we're gonna wrap it up because Jam- Jamal mentioned I should have showed this last week, but I totally forgot. Um, he said the first WrestleMania game format that shit was so rough. I
Mm.
remember that shit was so rough back then. But this guy on TikTok, shout outs to this brother, he made me a fucking character and bigged up the podcast in the process.
That was dope.
That was dope.
I got five on me against whoever you may see the Spotify on eyes
You
on
see the
mama.
logo?
Came to cook on behalf of hip hop. Pop up with you B-boy. Niggas sick like Krylon. Be in the deep bumping J. Boss tag your beat of God. Speed to the drums to play. Pump your brakes. It's that tack town. Body in the bag. Toe tag. Spit perfected live. Burning chocolate tie on the bandwidth. Marshall Thornton told Grease. Get the stands split. You know what I hit your man's with. Mama. Woo!
Shout outs to Bunch of Carter
Woo!
on the music.
Mm.
He dropped the.
Mm.
I told him I could have gave him our theme music, but he put that joint from there because I actually shared that song when Bunchy posted the video on TikTok, and I was just like, "Yo, my friends do dope shit," and I shared Bunchy, of course, because again, he's the author of our theme song, and he's one of the dopest MCs we know personally, and can serve any of y'all. Really, can serve tons of y'all.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, yo, we're done. I'll think of what's next week for the TikTok shit. We'll get more topics going on. We'll follow along more with the NBA finals as they go along. Maybe there'll be some NFL news. We'll see because of not official OTAs, but mandatory. Mandatory practices are happening right now for a couple
Yeah.
weeks. And so if there's anything going on there, we'll talk about that. But let's hope, thoughts and prayers to, because that's what the Republican Party lives on. Let's hope that there's no more shootings that we got to talk about next week. Y'all know what to do.
Shout out to the mayor. Shout out to Jamal. It was another dope show. Nice navigation of the show today, Jamal. Respect. And be safe out here, man. Motherfuckers is crazy. Just look over your shoulder that one extra time when you normally don't. And,
Word. Keep your head on a swivel. The
Yeah.
old school New York way.
Hmm. That's what's up. Shout out TJ. Good having you back. Shout out
Thank you,
Mayor.
sir.
Great show, y'all. Great show, and I love how we keep the topics not only with sports but everything that's affecting us every day living here. And it's a grand experiment that we're in. So shout out to everybody who's listening. Can't wait to chop it up with y'all next week.
And mustard wasn't always yellow.
That's right. And with that being said, we'll see y'all next week. Keep it Ishtar and shout out to Disabled Planet.